early 40s, and thought this was a way that we could bring people back to the faith. So it's bearing great fruit, praise God.
Wow. Well, great. How about you, Jenny?
Well, our freshman 9th grade confirmation students are doing the youth film series, so that's super exciting. And we have, we're kind of newer, so we have 2 Bible studies that have totally embraced it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's super great. And we're doing it tandem. We're doing one Sunday morning and one Wednesday night, which we've never done before either. So that's a lot of fun.
That's good. I know at our church, we are launching a brand new location and utilizing Alpha as the launch strategy. So they will launch in February. And so this past summer and fall, they've been doing Alpha as a ramp up to that. And so they've got over 100 people coming this fall to their Alpha, and are thinking that this will be a great campus launch strategy for future campuses as well as church plants. And we're also looking at how we can plant campuses inside of prisons and also utilize Alpha as part of that within that strategy. So some creative, out-of-the-box ways to do Alpha, but we're excited. So, well, hey, let's kick things off, and welcome to our Hub Church Call. We do have Ben Woodman, who's on the line with us, and there he is.
Hey, guys. Hey, I'm just riding in the back of my friend Landry's car here on the way to the office.
Excellent. Well, that's exactly where we were hoping to catch you is in scene. And who else with you, Ben, in the car?
Oh yeah, I got some really good people with me here. So this is Daniel Rowe. Yes. He's our project manager for the Alpha Youth Series, and then right up here in the front seat, let me just make sure you can see, is Jason. Jason, he's our executive producer and great visionary leader behind the Alpha Youth Series. And then driver is Landry.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And Landry is actually one of our new hosts in the youth series. And so we had Landry and Peter and Jazzy, some of our new hosts. We were just getting together today to make a video for Malaysia, actually, to say hello.
That's awesome. Well, I tell Landry he did such an awesome job. He was in session 2, I think, that just got released this week.
Yeah.
And
John says you did an awesome job, Landry, in session 2. He saw you in there.
Oh, good.
Okay, I'm going to turn off my video while I relocate to an office here, guys. But
okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Still here, though, you know?
Yes. Well, we will hear from Ben. We're going to give him, 10 minutes or so to get relocated back into his office setting. And we did just release the new Alpha Youth Series. And so he and Jason will be able to give us a bit of an update as to how that's going, cast some vision for that, and how that can be utilized in a youth setting. I also had a great conversation with David Daniels from Cru Winter Conference, and we recorded a segment which I'll share that with you at the end of this call. But hearing about Cru and what they do with their winter conference and how churches around the country can participate with Cru, formerly known as Campus Crusade for Christ, and a great partnership that we're developing with them. But before we jump into all of that, we wanted to let you know a little bit about the Alpha Conference that you may have heard of. And so Lindsay has some details about that. Lindsay, why don't you just go ahead and give us a quick update about the Alpha Conference, and then we can field some questions about that great event that's coming down.
Sure. So last week I sent an email out, and I'm just kind of wanted to touch base with you guys on this in case you hadn't seen the email and make sure everybody was on the same page. The Alpha Conference, we're going to be hosting an Alpha Conference this year in Phoenix, Arizona, February 8th and 9th. It's going to be the evening of February 8th and then all day on February 9th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. And we just opened registration. The registration went live on Friday morning. And you guys probably, most of you should have received an email from Craig, kind of a mass email from Craig Springer, our executive director, announcing the conference and registration and all of those kinds of things. If you didn't get that, I'm going to send the registration link out to you guys with our follow-up email after the call, but wanted to let you guys know kind of some details about the conference. It is February 8th and 9th. It's going to be in Phoenix, Arizona at Hillsong Phoenix, and it's going to be focusing on building a kingdom culture. It's not really going to be in the style of the old Alpha conferences. If you guys were ever a part of those, it's not going to be about training and all about Alpha. It's going to be more about a conversation and just kind of entering into conversations about unity and hospitality and some of the core pieces that make Alpha what it is and what that looks like in a broader context for the church as a larger community, not just individual churches. So it should be a really exciting time. We've got some really interesting people that are going to be part of that. So currently tickets are $89 a piece. And for a group of 10 or more, there's a group rate of $79. If you guys are able to get together, share this information or whatever, get together a group that you would like to bring, we're extending a discount to our hub churches for $10 off per ticket. So that would bring that down to $79 and $69 through the end of October. So just kind of a push to try to get as many people registered early on as we can. We're shooting for about 1,000 people. If we can get 1,000 people to the conference, we'll be really excited about that. And we've kind of worked that out within our networks and staff and different things like that. And that's about 20 people per person. So not horrible. But we're just asking everyone to, if you're able to invite people, extend that invitation to people within your networks, churches, people at your own alphas. Just work that out through your areas. And I'll be sending all of this information in an email to you after the call, but wanted to let you guys know about that. And we are very, very excited about what's in store for the conference. So
thanks, Lindsay.
Yeah,
the whole idea is that this would not be a giant Alpha infomercial type conference, but really getting after the key principles of a kingdom culture, which obviously is all about Alpha type culture. So we talk about creating a culture of listening and empowerment, of volunteers, of spirit dependency, and hospitality. And so obviously those are all core pieces of Alpha, but those are core pieces really that any church would want to create within their own culture. So hopefully people will be able to come regardless of where they're at in their engagement with Alpha and really be able to grow a healthier kingdom culture, which you guys are all at churches that are experiencing some of that fruit over years of having run Alpha and seeing some of the side benefits that Alpha brings in terms of the culture. So we're excited to have you there. We've got a great lineup of speakers, and it would be wonderful to see everyone there. So any questions about the Alpha conference that you can think of or ideas that you have for that?
I did want to add one more thing. Our marketing team is working on some pretty cool resources that they're going to share with our field team so that you guys can promote that out through your networks if you'd like. And we'll plan to share all of that with you guys as well. It's going to be there's going to be some options to make it unique to what you guys are doing. So we're going to just share that out or share that with you guys when those resources are available. So we'll push that out to you as well.
That's great. Well, we're excited to be able to do a conference like that. We actually have not done a national conference, to my knowledge, since about 2011. So this will be the 7-year, we took our 7-year Jubilee break from the national conference. And now with all of the Alpha products being new, this is an opportunity for Alpha to really step into a new chapter with a new face. And hey, this is kind of the new era with Alpha moving forward. So it'll be a great opportunity to gather the tribe together. Also, a couple things to let you know as Hub Church directors, as we're coming up into the last quarter of the year, Lindsay will be reaching out to connect with each of you here in the next couple of months. We'd like to gather some data around training events to understand how many training events have taken place and how many other churches have been engaged just from our Hub Church network. And so as part of our year-end data gathering that we do every year to understand and be able to report the number of trainings that we're doing. So just know that Lindsay will be following up with each of you in the next couple of months to do that. And also let you know, this is a great opportunity to communicate everything to everybody in the loop with what's going on. In January, the second week of January, starting on January 8th, we are going to be doing a big prayer push, much similar to what we did this past year, where we did a big blitz for an entire week to really pray for Alpha, pray for evangelization, and pray for our churches. And so would love to invite you guys to think about gathering maybe an Alpha team, your leadership team, or others together, and to have an hour of prayer to be able to pray for Alpha across the country. Right now, we are seeing growth just at a steady pace up and to the right with the number of Alphas that are running. And so one of the things that we want to do is pray for the quality of Alpha across the country, because we know that the stronger those Alphas are, the more likely they are to be able to reproduce. And so definitely want to get together and pray for that, and pray for this new youth series that's going to be going live here shortly. So Ben, as soon as you are able to jump on with us, we will go with you. And
I'm able.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for being on our call with us today. And just so you know, to give you context of who all is on the call, you have the cream of the crop, my friend.
It looks like it. I noticed Mike Shintani's on here. Hey,
yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, and then Jer and Lex. Oh, you're on mute, Jer.
Oh, it's my wife is Alexis and I'm Jerry, so it's like
Yeah.
Combination, yeah.
I got it. Yeah, celebrity name.
Yes.
Jer and Lex.
Yes.
Yeah. Jer Lex for short if you really merge it.
Yes. My screen name. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So yeah, thanks for having me, John and Lindsay.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, what you guys will soon realize is Ben is a blast to be around, and Ben has there's some things that I learned about Ben. He recently came to our staff retreat, and when we met in Colorado, and we had the opportunity to ride in a car together for about 30 minutes, each way, looking for donuts in Colorado Springs. And
it was a hunt.
Yeah, it was. But it was worth it. And we stopped by Garden of the Gods, did some sightseeing things. But one thing that I learned about Ben is that Ben, if you guys know Ben and Jason from the youth series, Ben was actually Jason's youth minister. And I did not know that. That was new news to me. So I'd be curious, Ben, what was it like to have Jason Ballard in your youth group?
It was inspiring, to be honest.
Is Jason with you right now?
He's not. I was gonna have him in the room, but then he had to go. He's jumping into another meeting, so he was sitting down next to me, and then he's like, I gotta go in 4 minutes. I was like, you should just go, man. But yeah, so actually Jason's dad was my mentor. He was kind of a youth leader and mentor to me. And then I became the youth leader at his church. And so then Jason and his two older brothers kind of came up in the youth ministry. I was only 20 years old, but I'm 7 years older than Jason. So when I was 20, he was, what is that, math? I don't know. Jenny, are you good at math? 13, right, exactly. Yeah, 13. So yeah, I've known Jason for a long time. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, because I usually like to joke, isn't that everyone's dream that then, because Jason kind of is the visionary leader behind the Alpha Youth Series. And so I kind of joke oh yeah, that's the dream of every youth pastor, that the people you mentor kind of go further than you, except for you kind of don't want them to go right in front of you. You kind of want them to go off the side. And because Jason then became my boss, which is it's been really fun because we're great friends, but he hired me, gave me the chance to be part of Alpha, and and so it's been a fun ride for sure.
That's really cool. And so you guys were doing youth ministry. He was obviously a student in his high school, and you were using this thing called Quest.
That's right. Yeah.
In your local high school, and Jason was kind of the student leader in his high school. Tell us just briefly, what was Quest? What was he thinking? What was he doing as a high school student leader?
Yeah, so God got a hold of Jason's life when he was really young. When I think he was in grade 6, which is 10, 11 years old. And from there, by the time he was 14, 15, he was leading a prayer group at his school. And so then we said, I was his youth pastor, and I said, one of the youth groups in our neighborhood a bunch of youth groups were doing this thing called Quest. And so it's a video series, and the host travels around the world and he talks about life, faith, and God. And the idea was you have a meal, you watch a talk, and then you have discussion. And in the talk, they had 3 breaks for discussion, and they did interviews on the street. And so,
Wait a second. Wait, whoa. That is a brilliant idea.
It's such a good idea, right? I think it's such a good idea for a tool for youth ministry. And so we started using this tool in youth groups. We were doing this thing together. And as we were at one of these nights, I said, kind of just went to Jason. I said, Jay, you could run this with your friends at school. And literally that's all I did. It was one of those things where the idea just kind of sparked something for him. The Holy Spirit just did something with that. And I didn't really help him set it up, but he started running this series called Quest for his friends at school and with his prayer group. So the prayer group would pray, and they planned it all, and they organized everything. They got permission. They got a room after school once a week, and they got donuts, and they just invited all their friends to talk about life, faith, and God. And so that then he did stuff like that all the way through high school. So then what happened was there was a ministry called Campus Fire, and they were equipping young people to share their faith with their friends and start prayer groups. And they were the ones who paid for the Quest video series. It was a $250 series, and they got a donor to give the series to students. So one of the guys I didn't even get it for him. I didn't even buy it with my youth budget. He got connected with this ministry, and this guy said to him, they're at a conference, and he said, hey, I'll give you this series for whatever you have in your pocket. I think he had 80 cents and a button and some lint, and he gave him this, thing, and the guy gave him this $250 video series. So then fast forward 10 years, Jason at this point had been asked to take over that ministry. So he's leading a national ministry when he's in university, and he's equipping high school students to reach their friends. And he's saying, hey, I need to put something in their hands so that they can have these faith conversations. And so that is what led him to approach Alpha. And he said, what are you, Alpha? You got to do something. You're Alpha. You have videos, right? They said, no. And they kind of gave him the curriculum. And he goes, no, this is too hard for young people to do. You got to make some videos. You guys are Alpha. Make some videos. And Shayla Visser, our national director, started that conversation with Jason about what would it look like to put Alpha on video for youth. And this was in probably 2010 probably the conversation started. By 2011, they'd made a decision, we're going to do it. I was working closely with Jason in that ministry, and so it was kind of something we'd always talked about. Man, somebody needs to redo this series, Quest. We should redo something. And we'd done teaching together, and so I'm really glad he kind of gave me the call, like, Ben, come do this with me. And I was youth pastoring at the time, and my church said that we love it. So I started doing part-time Alpha as we prepared to make the first youth film series. Mm-hmm. And it really was, the language we use the first one was an experiment. We thought there's such a need for this. Ask any youth pastor, do you need high quality stuff, especially when it comes to reaching out, to being evangelistic? And then even, would you use this? And across the board, most youth pastors are like, yeah, like, we need something like that. And so it was kind of an experiment, like, let's invest some money so this is high quality, inspired by Quest. We copied the format. We even cut and paste some lines in the first episode. And now it's actually, what's really funny is it's in the Alpha film series as well. The line where we say, hey, if you live to be 70, this is how you'll spend your life. Doing this, this and this, you'll spend this much 6 months at red lights. And then we say it's alarming to think you'll spend more time sitting at red lights than exploring life, faith, and God. Well, we copied that right from Quest with permission from the guys who made it, a guy named Phil Can. And then now it made it over into the youth film, or the film series as well, for the adults. And I think they got the hours wrong, because we calculated the hours for a 15-year-old to be 70, and we said that's 570,000 hours. But then they kept that. We didn't change that line. That was maybe our fault. We didn't change that line in the Alpha film series. So, because I think a 24-year-old, they're gonna have less hours to live. So, but the heart behind it always was, how do we get something in the hands of young people to help them have faith conversations? Now, to be clear, when I think about Alpha and who I want to know about Alpha, my first conversation is with pastors like yourselves, church leaders. I want church leaders to know about it. My goal isn't to market this to students to run with their friends. I just want pastors and leaders and churches to say, this is a tool to make a front door for your youth ministries. And then from there, it's also, you can put this in the hands of your young people to have these conversations and just teach them how to have faith conversations with their friends. And so here we are. That was 4 years ago. And there was a great response to the first youth film series. So we released it in 2013, September. And here we are 4 years later, pretty much to the day, and we're releasing the remake. We put more money, more time, more energy into it. Used all the stuff we learned, all the mistakes we made from the first series, all the stuff we got feedback on that went well or that was challenging. We tried to make as many improvements as we could, and we made we really do feel like it's better. We're like, oh yeah, this is a little bit better, and that was the goal all along. It was like, let's just make something a little bit better, then it's worth it. So I think American dollars, we went from about $500,000 for the first series to like 1.5 for the second series. So we kind of tripled the budget, and we're thrilled so far. So right now there's a staggered release. And Jenny, was it you saying that your church is running your junior high or middle school and high school running it? Oh, you're on mute. Hold on.
Yep. Our ninth grade confirmation students, we just started it this year, this semester, and they are really, really enjoying it. So.
Cool. And so are they using the new one or the original?
Well, we started September 10th. No,
gotcha.
17th. So we just have to wait for it to catch up.
Love it. Next year you can use the new one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
I love that.
maybe you know this, but Lutheran Church of Hope in Des Moines, they did the youth film series, or however you say it, this summer, and they had like over 100 high school students attend.
Wow.
Summer. So it's just fantastic. So we're super. And
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're just thrilled with the response. We translate it into lots of languages. Jared, sounds like you're running it. Your church runs Alpha in different languages. I heard Spanish. And that's my favorite translation of the youth series. They got professionals. So the voice that does my voice in the youth film series is the voice who did the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. So, I mean, not that everyone loves the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, but I just think that's pretty cool.
Well, I would say that, Ben, you are definitely a little bit funnier in the new series.
In the new series?
Yes, I'd say you're more than a little bit funnier.
Yeah, we tried. That's actually one of the big things. We went more fun. We wanted to be more global. We wanted to be more stories. So the first series, we only did about 3 interviews. And then we realized, oh my gosh, the interviews are the best when you interview people about their life being changed. So the next series, we have between 13 to 20. So every episode has stories in it, interviews with people. We have 3 interviews with teenagers. And that's something that probably in the future we do even more of. We get teenagers who, hey, your life's been changed. Let's interview you and get you on camera. So that more stories, more hosts. So Jason and I do the bulk of the teaching, and then we have our friend Jazzy and Landry, who I kind of quickly showed you, and our friend Peter. And so, it's exciting. We just kind of said, hey, let's make this a little bit, we took steps to make it a little bit more multicultural, a little bit more stories, a little bit more dynamic. And we feel like we did that. We made it. We did a little bit better. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that are going to be released in the next year, the next 6 months, training materials, or any other assets or resources? Maybe you could speak to that briefly.
Yeah, so we just refilmed 3 training episodes, and let me just check with Dan. Dan, is the training episodes available?
They are available on Alpha Builder.
They're available on Alpha Builder. Dan says they're available. And so we just released them. They just put up 3 new training videos for youth, Alpha for youth specifically. And then we also are going to have a context video specifically for like youth, like peer-to-peer alphas, like for young guys and girls like Jason when you're 15 years old. Just say, hey, this is what you need to be thinking about if you want to run Alpha for your friends. You think about getting permission. You got to start praying. You got to start getting some people to partner with, and then this is how you can promote it. The best way to get people there is to invite them. So just a short video for those contexts. And then next year we'll roll out some of the training video content in writing, but that's we think the video format's the best one. Yeah.
Oh, that's really exciting. I'd love for some of our Hub Church directors, do you guys, if you're running Alpha, maybe you could share about that, or if you have a question for Ben, since we have him available. And maybe while you're thinking of your questions, Ben, I'd love for you to share a story. Is there a church or 2 that comes to mind that's just doing, like they're killing it with Youth Alpha? What does that look like? And why do you think they're so fruitful with it?
Yeah, I think the church that comes to mind is actually the church that I'm in right now, the church building. It's actually, so Jason's a pastor at this church, and we live about an hour apart. So I live in Vancouver, and Jason lives in a suburb called Langley. and he pastors here. And so the youth pastor here is actually Peter and Jazzy are involved in the youth ministry. So Peter, who's one of our new hosts, he's a Korean-Canadian guy, and he's the youth pastor here. And what they've done, and then Jazzy is one of the youth leaders. She's 20 years old, and she a few years ago, Jazzy and a bunch of the other students in the youth ministry took it, and they were doing Alpha for their friends at school. Got permission, and then Peter was one of the guys as the youth pastor who helped host training events. So what they've done the last few years is they invite all the young people who are interested to 2 Saturday morning training events. And then they train them. They do go through all the training. They practice leading small groups. They give them everything they need to know about asking for permission. They pray for their friends. They pray for that they get the permission they need. In Canada, we don't have the same rights, and it's it makes us have to be more reliant on God, because it's pretty much in every district across Canada, the principal of every school can decide whether or not can be a religious club. They can just say yes or no. And so in some ways we're really thankful for that, actually, because it's like, okay, wait, no, we're not fighting for our rights. We're humbly here to serve the school and pray. And we had some kids, random side note, we had some kids who were like, the principal was so anti anything in the school, no prayer groups, no Christian clubs, anything. And so I told them, I said, hey, we're going to just pray. We'll pray that God changes her mind, or we get a new principal. And literally in 3 months, we got a new principal. And the new principal was like, come on in, everybody, what do you need? And so all these youth ministries were welcomed in, and groups started. Anyhow, that's a side note. But so Peter, actually, what we love is that Peter, as the youth pastor here, he's hosting what we would say is a centralized Alpha. They're taking over their youth nights. They're a couple hundred kids in their youth ministry, and they're going to run everyone through Alpha. Obviously, that's a big job when you got trying to feed 200 people, trying to make sure everyone can get into the right groups. And so they're going to do it centralized. And then again, in the new year, in January, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to host 2 Saturday morning training events. And they're going to say, hey, anyone interested in running this for your friends at school, for your friends who maybe don't respond to the invite to youth group, do you want to do this? And so we're really excited. We're praying that there's a lot of really good results. And that's what we've seen. We just it's almost like the kids, when they see 2-3 weeks in, they go, oh, I like the format. I like the videos. This is something I can bring my friends to. And then the Christian kids feel a little bit more comfortable to bring their friends. So that's what we're dreaming about. And I'm glad that Peter's up close and personal, so we can kind of watch and see the challenges he faces and learn from that.
That's good. That's really good. Well, let me open it up. And I know that Willow has done, you mentioned training, and Sarah, friend there at Willow, Mike, you could even talk to how she's been providing training, and she helped out at our most recent Run Alpha training, did a whole session on Youth Alpha. But what have you guys seen work with Youth Alpha in your churches? It'd be great to just share that with Ben, and great for you guys to hear what each other is doing.
And I'm still here. I'm just plugging in for power for my phone, guys.
Hey, John, it's Mike. Yeah, well, I think one of the coolest things we stumbled upon here at Willow through using the student film series in partnership with our high school ministry is it's probably the most significant place where young leaders, and that's namely juniors and seniors in high school, get the ability to flex that muscle and lead a group, host a group. We're actually empowering a set of seniors to run Alpha here at the church. We'll run some very student-specific leadership development courses every once in a while, and usually the high school ministry leads that effort. But Alpha, Student Alpha is what we call it. Student Alpha is the only thing that's cyclical. Every 3 months, we're running a new one. And a new batch of young leaders get experience to lead a group for the first time. Unless you're leading in our high school ministry, in our junior high or the little kids, you don't get to really lead in a small group context. And it's been neat to watch high school students lead their peers. That is a stretch for them. That is new for them to lead people 1 or 2 years plus or minus of their own age.
Yeah. The thing I love about that is, Mike, is when I hear you say that, a lot of times people are thinking, oh, they think discipleship when they think Alpha. And I'm kind of like, okay, yes and no. This is to reach out. This is evangelistic. This is for to reach people who don't know Jesus. And the discipleship part that we encourage people is actually, just like you said, it's like, hey, this is where you get the most hands-on experience. They learn how to take ownership of their own faith as they start to think about, how do I lead this conversation? And so it's a new sense of ownership, even in having faith conversations with people. And so there's a massive discipleship part of it. And we say, hey, use it to reach out, but this is the benefit. It's going to be kids who've never, led something, all of a sudden have to figure it out.
We're discipling them to learn how to evangelize. Like they're learning how to do relational evangelism with their peers.
Exactly.
Which then sets them up well for post-high school, college, that type of thing.
Yeah. Love that.
It's very exciting. Anybody else? How are you using Youth Alpha? Or
can I throw one other that just came to mind? So I think, like a lot of youth ministries, you have these camps, these retreats. Here at Willow, we happen to do it twice a year. We do a winter and a summer one. And we bring all our campuses together. And it's a large retreat, a large group of students who go away for 3 days, 4 days. There will be, like that, every youth camp, there's a night where the gospel's presented. It's like a cool opportunity for the Holy Spirit to work and move in these students. And we'll have handfuls, a large number of students make first-time decisions at these retreats and these camps. What we've started to do is position Alpha, our student version of Alpha, our high school version, to start the next week after all these kids come back. And what we do is a targeted invite to these 100 or 200 students who just became Christians, first-time Christians. I guess that's the only type of Christian, but inviting the Holy Spirit into your life for the first time. And they'll take Alpha, the student version of it. It's a little different of positioning, but we'll position it. This is an awesome place for you to discover really what you just did. God prompted you in a very unique and special way on Saturday night, 4 hours away from where is Chicago. But now come through Alpha and discover really what is it to be a Christian? What is it about this? What are you joining into when you've become a Christian? So it's a little bit of a post-learning thing, but we take the posture for the high schoolers.
It's really good. Hey, Ben, I have a question for you, and I'm sure you get this all the time because I know we hear it. How do you navigate with churches that are utilizing Youth Alpha in a Sunday context or in a weekly context? How do you coach them around the Alpha weekend and setting that up? And even for students that are doing it at their school, how do they do the Alpha weekend without it seeming like a weird cult?
Right. I'm glad you asked that, because I remembered when you started asking, I was like, oh yeah, I meant to tell you how Peter does the weekend, because he mobilizes his young people to lead this for their friends. But then what they do is they host the weekend at their church building. So also that becomes the moment where it's like, that's the bridge moment, right, for these kids, because they're doing it on campus in their high schools and, whatever classroom or in the lunchroom. And then they, for the weekend, Peter opens up the church building. They do Friday night and all day Saturday. And they have tons of fun. They have, worship band. They have some moments for prayer, which are so key. And we have one of the guys, we actually tell his story, a little quote from him in our first episode of the new series. His name is Mark, and that's where his life was changed. He just said, oh, God's real. And even when you asked him, like, hey, why'd you go to Alpha? He's like, oh, just my friend invited me. I had nothing to do. So I went, and he was like, grew up in an atheistic home. And he says, we quote him because he says, what difference has Jesus made? And he says, oh, like it's like God filled a void in my heart that I didn't even know I had. And then we kind of asked around a bit, who coached him with the language, that the filling of the void, that's the Christian language. And everyone's like, no one told him that. That's just actually how he described his life change. And so what Peter and the team have done is they've made a space at their church building, and they do the weekend. Now, for the kids and for, I think, everyone who's running Alpha, the weekend is so much work. It's so challenging. It's hard to get people there. It's hard to make sure your team is motivated. And so they face the same challenges, but we see time and again, it's just so worth it, making it a priority, encouraging people to do it. So it is a modified version. For our new series, we encourage people to do 3 or 4 sessions but do a weekend away, do a full weekend. And because just facilitating these moments for prayer is just like so life-changing. So one other example is my buddy Jeff. He was in our rap video in the first series. If you've seen the rap video in episode 2, he's a youth pastor, and he's really good at backhanded shots from center court. He almost made a Guinness Book of World Records by doing anyhow. So Jeff, they're doing Alpha right now. Centralize is a larger youth group, a few hundred kids, and they're, again, massive work. And then I'm like, oh man, you can do the weekend. And they always have, sounds like Willow, they have a fall retreat. And so instead of their fall retreat, they're doing a takeover. So it's the Alpha weekend, full on. And the reason that youth groups do these things like fall retreats, winter retreats, whatever it is, it's because we know these weekend moments where you get away, you make moments for prayer are so life-changing. And so, yeah, we really want to encourage you guys and all your contacts, but then also anyone you come in contact with to say, hey, it's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be worth it to make those moments.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, any other thoughts for Ben before he has to go here?
Just one thing, I think, just praying. I'm going to be heading to a conference, a leadership conference at Lutheran Church of Hope here tonight, and I'll be with our high school ministry director. Her name's Christina, and she loves Alpha. They haven't run it yet specifically for high school students, but we're trying to figure out, other than our ninth graders, we're trying to figure out how to incorporate it. And I just loved what you said, and I don't know, just with God, all things are possible. And so I'm just, I think, praying for wisdom, how to do this well.
Yeah. Love that.
So thank you.
Yeah, I think in some ways, like when I get a chance to talk to leaders like you guys who are like, spearheading Alpha in your churches, in your context, and then we so need you guys. We so need you. I always tell people, hey, I work for Alpha. It's a program that churches and Christians run. And then I say, Alpha doesn't run Alpha. Like, I don't run Alpha. And if I am running Alpha, it's through my church. It's with my church. And so we so need you, because it's like, this is who runs Alpha, right? Our churches, our leaders, and making a space to bring people in. Alpha, we're not trying to collect people. We're trying to like just help the church. And so we need your guys' story. We need your learnings. We need your wisdom. And then also, you just reminded me again that the heart, whenever I think about talking to leaders like yourselves, it's like, we just want that passion for the gospel, the passion for people who don't know Jesus, to be, just bring that to the front of our hearts, in front of our minds again, that lives are literally changed when Jesus, when people encounter Jesus. One more quote from a girl nearby from here who went through Alpha. She invited her cousin. Her cousin actually experienced healing, ended up getting baptized. Her life was changed. And she said it so well. She says, Jesus changed her life. And she goes, and Alpha was a big part of that. And I'm like, oh, that's the dream. She said it so right. I was like, that's what we want. I'm like, yeah, Jesus changes people's lives. We don't want them to say, oh, Alpha changed my life. We want them to say Jesus. So, and Alpha was a part of it. It's perfect. That's what we want. So, yeah, thanks, guys, for taking the time and being on the call and letting me share.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for all the work that you guys have done. And we're so excited to see the rest of the series roll out. And we'll be praying for you. So
thank you so much.
All right, man.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Well, hey, I wanted to also let you know we're gonna show just a clip of this interview that I did with David Daniel about Winter Conference and Crew and how you guys can be involved. And at the end of the call, we'll save the last 8 or 9 minutes. We're gonna pair you up and let you pray for each other. So if you guys can hang on for a few more minutes, Lindsay's got our interview with David Daniels from Crew. He lives down in Austin, Texas, attends Hill Country Bible Church, which actually has attended EA in London with us. Mike, you may know those a couple of those guys from Hill Country. And they are actually one of the churches that we're going to be talking to about being a hub church. So here's our recorded conversation with David Daniels. And you have to make up what you think I'm saying.
Can you not hear it?
No.
Uh-oh.
So if the audio...
Oh, I bet it was because I was on mute. Hang on.
Now, you serve with there we go. Crew. Many of us may know Crew as working with college students in the past, but you guys were called Campus Crusade. So what have you guys been up to in the last?
Yeah.
well, like you mentioned, one of the things we changed our name a little bit, that's still about the same mission of reaching students, seeing students on every campus have a chance to really know someone who follows Jesus and hear the message through a person, and be sent both to the context they're in and whatever context God is leading them to after college. That's still what we're about. But yeah, some of the big things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at your conference over the summer. It seemed like you guys were going through some pretty big philosophical shift, even ministry. Maybe just give everybody just a quick update.
Yeah, I would say really that gets captured of we really want to see, like I said, the gospel go to every corner of every campus. So we recognize, hey, some of the ways we were structured didn't help us get there. And so both in just our partnership with others to get to every, to recognize, hey, we're not going to be on every, but how do we work together to get to every campus? But then every corner of every campus, because we recognize in any given campus, there's a lot of different ethnic and cultural background, socioeconomic background, and how do we have a relevant gospel message in each one of those? And so, yeah, really trying to change the way that and evaluate how we've structured ministry. Is it accessible? Is the message accessible? Are the systems accessible to reach and every? So that's been definitely a big shift.
That's cool. I was very impressed. Why don't you share with everybody what is your role?
Yeah, so my role is I'm the director of conference and event strategy, and that's so basically kind of crafting the what and where and when of all of our student conferences. Our biggest of which is our winter conference, but also includes like our local conferences on campuses, as well as our different spring break opportunities and a number of other ones kind of thrown in there. Just a couple things. But I've also I lead the DFW Winter Conference specific. I direct that one a lot more hands-on. The other one kind of more crafting the strategy. Okay, how do these conferences help students take next steps spiritually, help movements and student ministries take next steps in reaching where God has them, and really, helping mobilize teams to the world. So that's kind of trying to fit the strategy with the event. How does this event help take us where God leads us to go?
Well, we were talking Alpha through at Winter Conference. And so I'm excited to share this with you. Where we have our churches or where we have staff. So that's just a real glimpse of what you're hoping for your winter conference. What is that winter conference? Who comes to it? And what would you hope to see?
Yeah, it's so it happens in 9 different cities across the country, and it's pretty much it runs on a couple different dates, but the end of December through January. One of them's on MLK weekend, but it's mostly over the majority of them are over the New Year break. But they run anywhere from 800 to 2,000 students, depending on the location. They're made up from students coming from all sorts of campuses. And really, one thing that's a unique flavor of the conference is students come. They don't come as much as individuals, but they come in communities from their campus together, and so they kind of walk through that together as a community. And so that community could be a crew movement, it could be some other church ministry or student organization, but they're kind of walking through it as a community. And my hope really is that we've made some shifts and changes in the last couple of years to facilitate this, but my hope is that really it does become a place, it's a platform to help anyone who's reaching, who's called to reach students in their context, to come and bring their community, and it helps really launch them into that new year and launch their community back to their campus on mission together, and say, okay, we want to walk this out. Because really for the student, as the individual comes, it's wanting to help connect them more deeply to God, connect them deeply to one another, and help them take a next step in that spiritual journey, which could be a lot of different things. but then also for their communities, just launching them back into what God has.
Yeah, so it seems about 30. All right. I think, Lindsay, why don't you go ahead and just pause that right there. The audio, I really apologize for the audio being difficult to hear through that. And so we'll send you out a link to that. And if that seems like something that you would be interested in hearing more about, Crew is looking to utilize Alpha at their winter conferences around the country. And Rebecca, especially for you in North Carolina, they do a conference in Raleigh, and they've got 9 other conferences around the country. But they're looking for ways that they could have folks from Alpha or local churches come in and be present at their conference to either lead a workshop or a seminar on something, but also to be able to help students around the area who are part of campus ministries get engaged with local churches. So it's a way to help them navigate the transition of being in college, but they know the importance of college students being engaged in a local church. And so they're just wanting to engage local churches at their winter conferences. So it's a great opportunity for those of you that would want to participate in something like that. But I would love to just finish in prayer. And I think a couple people had to knock off on the call. So if you guys would like, we will just stay here in, I think we're going to split up into 2 groups and give you guys a chance just to introduce yourself. Got about 10 minutes and pray for each other. So Lindsay, if you could make sure to put us in those breakouts, that would be fantastic.
Then are we coming back together, or are we?
Nope. We'll just leave
Okay.
it. Yeah. So right in about 10 minutes, the call will end. So if you guys can